And for all those tuning in, welcome to The Whole Woman, Part 2, From Patterns to Power, Coaching Insights for Women Executives. Okay, now there's something about whether it was the description, whether it was just supporting one of us, or you're just a fan of behavioral essentials in general, something about today resonated with you, grabbed you, and wanted you to be a part of this dialogue. It could have been, some of the themes that we're talking about today are perfectionism, excellence, dedication, persistence, stepping to our authority, juggling identities. And I'd imagine those are some pretty relatable themes to all. As you get settled in, welcome, Alli. As you get settled in, I would love to hear a little bit more about which one of them, or even all of them, grabbed you. So this is very much a dialogue, by the way. This is very much a dialogue. I see a hand raised already. So if something about this resonated with you, please put it in the chat. I would love to hear a little bit more about what brought you in today and what you hope to further discuss and connect with. Jill, I see you have your hand up, so you have permission to speak should you want to, or if that was by accident, by all means, you're still welcome to jump in anytime. All right, Shannon says overextension framed as dedication. That's definitely a relatable one. And so we'll just let those answers just keep coming in. And again, we love to engage with you, panelists. You can see the chat box as well. And we'll just continue I'll do my best to monitor that throughout our conversation. But as you have insights, as you have questions, it's a great way to connect with us. It's a great way to connect with one another. And even sometimes that feeling of like, oh, it's not only me. That's nice. That's nice. So I'll keep all that in mind. And let's for now go ahead and jump in. If you are new to behavioral essentials, what we do is we use the power of awareness to help you hire better and grow leaders and teams with our behavioral insights platform, the E3 Behavioral Insights platform, and blind spotting. We help leaders and teams better understand each other so you can be happier, work better together, make the right hires, and ultimately grow your business. All great things, right? And so here are a couple of other things that, in terms of products and services we offer, we're not going to deep dive into this. You're here for something different, and I want to be able to jump into that as soon as possible. But if any of these do grab you and you'd like to learn more about it, we're happy to engage with you. Just reach out to us after. All right, this is what I was excited about. And that was really giving space to you all, three of our talented coaches. And before we go into that, all right. This, Martha, Alli, Aïcha, thank you again for being here. You're just even giving the audience here just some time, just glance. At first glance, at first sentence, you can see just the abundance of talent and experience that's being brought to the conversation today. Would love to just give you all each a moment to introduce yourselves. Martha, I'll start with you. And okay. I would love to hear a little bit more about your coaching focus, as we can already see some of the wonderful things, the accolades that are very clearly represented on your bio there. But tell us a little bit more about your coaching focus and style. Maybe not everyone has even experienced coaching, so even a little bit more from that lens. If you're kind of new to it, a little bit more about your coaching focus and style.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Arti. So as you can see there, I was in corporate for many decades. About 3 years ago, I was lucky enough to be part of a layoff. Thank you, universe. It was time. I had already gotten my coaching certification and had started building a little bit of a business. But at that point, I was able to make a big leap. I typically work with executives, with leaders who are in the corporate space, who are either going through some sort of a transition. time to make a change, identity transition, role transition, or they are stuck, firmly stuck in their current role, and they don't know how to get out of it. And the coaching that I do, and I'm sure we'll be talking a lot about this because this is all of what Behavioral Essentials is all about, is growing awareness. I actually think that's the secret to life, growing self-awareness. And the way in which I do that, or the way in which we start doing that, when I'm working with clients, is to start to have them cultivate a relationship with themselves,
Mm.
start to get to know themselves, maybe for the first time ever. And when that happens, when we start to do that work, we are able then to surface limiting beliefs, long-held assumptions, uh, harmful behaviors, things that are holding them back, things that are keeping them stuck. And when we're able to bring awareness to those spaces, that's when the power of those beliefs and assumptions can lessen. And then, with intention, I work with clients to then design the life that they really want to lead, figure out what they really want to do, and to take the steps to do that.
Ah, sounds wonderful. And a lot of richness you're going to bring from those experiences from your sessions into today. So very much look forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Alli, you're next up on the screen here. I'd love to hear a little bit more about you and your coaching focus and style.
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad to be here, and thank you, Arti, and my fellow panelists. Excited to chat with you all. So when I'm working with clients, sort of where I find my sweet spot to be is in working with accomplished women in leadership who are really at a crossroads. So perhaps they're looking to break into a new industry, do something completely different, or they've just gotten a new role and they're sorting out, how do I manage the people who used to be my peers? Or they are, rethinking how they want to move forward as a leader and recognizing that maybe what got them to this place will not get them to the next level. So I partner with those folks, really important to say partnership because that's what coaching is about. I don't think I'm smarter, more experienced, have all the answers. I believe that my clients can grow the most when I create the conditions in the space for them to be really curious. For them, as Martha said, to explore, uncover things that maybe they're not seeing every day, and then take action. I'm a big believer. I don't want to be a conversationalist for my clients. I want to help be a change agent. So making sure that there is, of course, empathy, but also a great deal of accountability because working with a coach can get you so much further faster. I found in my own experience working with coaches and of course, working alongside the people who are current clients. And really, I think what's underlying all of this is trust. Making sure there is this level of trust in a coaching engagement, and the most important thing is for the client to trust themselves.
I really appreciate how you called it a partnership. Yeah, coaching is very much a partnership, and look forward to diving into that more. I can also attest to having coaches myself, like just the level of accountability I get is also very much appreciated. So thank you for that. We'll look forward to taking notes from you all as well. Look for and latching on to some of the things that you're saying and look forward to circling back to those. Aïcha, last but certainly not least, a little bit more about your coaching focus and style.
Sure. So I have a wide range of experience, mostly working for corporate, but also in tech and in medical field as well. And I was taking back a step back. What's common amongst all my clients is that they often arrive with a sense of disconnection from themselves, from their relationships at work, and from the roles they've worked so hard to earn. And my work is about integration, helping women and men, but here we're talking about women, helping women develop a full range of their intelligence. So the cognitive, the emotional, the somatic, and also the relational intelligence. And I always think, a lot of the time when we think about coaching, there's a lot of focus on what one individual can do. And I like to always offer the space where we start looking at what the team dynamics look like, or what at the collective level in the company, what that look like, what my actions as a leader, how do they impact my team? How do they impact the culture of the company? So not just staying at the individual level, but seeing how this plays out in the dynamic. And so the goal for me is to really support people to get to a point where they both can continue to achieve excellence, and also fulfillment. And the way we start working is really it's a little bit similar to what Martha, you were saying, is starting by connecting deeply with who I'm truly am, and getting to see what are the places that I can always lean on, but also the places where I can expand or widen my range. Oftentimes, people talk about like leadership style as like one way to be, and I like to think about it as more like leadership range, expanding my range, and using all these different ways that I can navigate my intelligence, my full intelligence. And so when I work with my client, it's really, we start from a place of trust. There's a lot of warmth, but there's also directness. I'm going to call out things, and I'm going to be your partner, where it's like a journey. We're together and we're exploring. There's a lot of curiosity, there's a lot of experimentation in trying new ways, new and learning. Oh, so sorry, there was like technical issues. Um, so it's really about exploring together, learning together, and and I love to offer frameworks, tools, and practices coming from a wide range of things, from mindfulness, nonviolent communication, or even organizational psychology frameworks to help people navigate their challenges.
Yeah, really nice. Thank you. And I the warmth can certainly be felt honestly from each of you as you talk about your styles and your focus. But don't be fooled, audience. Like when it comes to challenge, when it comes to accountability, when it comes to that directness, everyone comes to coaching for different things. And so some have a preference towards, I want that support and that encouragement, I want a safe space. And then others might be, call me out of my stuff, because I know at times I get in my own way. And I would like to take that and sort of like segue into, and speaking of just getting in your own way, what are some of the patterns? And any of you can jump in. And like I said, audience, you're welcome to engage with us in the chat. Send questions in there, or send questions to me personally, and I'll take a look. But what's like one pattern each of you, as you think of your coaching sessions? It can either be, you don't have to go through the entire repertoire of sessions you've had over the years, but it can either just be like one that recently surfaced and you're kind of curious about it, or one that a pattern that you do frequently see among high performing women leaders. And any of you can start.
I'll dive in. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Alli.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
For me, there's such universality in owning your authority, especially as a woman, especially in a corporate space or in any space really that's dominated by men, and seeing lots of women, no matter how accomplished they are, Fortune 10 presidents of companies still struggle with this. And a lot of times it shows up as, prefacing a disagreement with some sort of a nicety. I'd love to share a different perspective. Or not claiming your authority as an expert in the room and staying silent when you could add real value and really change the course of a discussion. Or I also see this as, someone talking about we. We did this, we did that. And a lot of times I'll work with my clients to really create the roadmap of, okay, what were the key milestones in this project? What were you most responsible for? And then let's turn that into the story you want to share. Let's share more of the I did this, if not for me. And I think, a lot of this has roots in socialization as women, how we were raised, whether it's gender-based or cultural, even geographical, basis. My experience is only as a white woman, so I want to be clear to say that, and somebody who was raised in the US. But, these tendencies are really, really common. And I think the biggest challenge, or sort of the biggest obstacle, is without claiming credit, without owning your authority, a lot of women are overlooked for promotions, for special projects. And, even someone I'm very close to told me her supervisor said, "I didn't know you were interested in moving up because you never said anything." So I think there are real missed opportunities when we don't claim our authority, and the ripple effect. Aïcha mentioned this a minute ago. It's not just about the individual. There are other women looking to us. We can have a great impact on an organization. And, there are wonderful opportunities to step into more bold leadership as females.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Alli, I'm going to jump right in and just kind of follow along on your topic. And that is something I see all the time, is this people pleasing and this belief that they have to raise their hand, they have to say yes, they have to solve problems, they have to carry all of it. And at one point it probably really worked for them. It worked well. It helped them get to where they are today. But it can be taken too far, and it can start to hurt, and it can start to harm. They create a culture, or they're creating a culture, or helping to create a culture, where that people pleasing, those expectations are the norm. And the other side of people pleasing that I'm seeing come out a lot recently, which is very real, I call it this fierce fear of being laid off, being part of a riff. And they feel like they have to say yes. I have a client right now, part of a large manufacturing company. She is terrified to speak her mind, to create boundaries, to, say I have to pick up my sick child, because she's really worried she's going to be part of a layoff. And so I think that is something that is very real right now, and certainly something that's coming up quite a bit.
Yeah, and also to riff off of you, Martha, something that's, to me, I've seen over and over again is overextension framed as dedication. And it often looks like also people pleasing, right? And this necessity to take on more, work more hours, show like dedication in ways of like taking a lot of load, not only in terms of like tasks, but also I would say, especially for women, there's something about emotional labor. Dedication as like trying to think that it's my responsibility to make everybody feel okay in the team. And that's also adds to the overextension. It's like trying to anticipate other people's needs and like trying to take care of everyone as opposed to focus on what's needed to be focused for as a leader. And that has, the repercussion can come, obviously starts with stress, and then it can become somatic. It can become things like I can't sleep, or I can I'm very anxious. And so all these things that come into the emotional and the somatic realm actually blocks us from keeping the clarity. It blocks us from um, cultivating healthy relationships with people, even building trust. And so that these are things to keep, like overextension is not just like, oh, I'm stressed, I have too much work. It has effects on the relationships in the team and in the company.
Really like what you said there, Aïcha, about the added emotional labor. And I had not thought about that, but it's very relatable. It's not so much about these are the responsibilities of my position. Here I go volunteering to go a little bit more above and beyond. But now here's all this other stuff connecting to your socialization comment there, Alli, of like things I'm taking on that I don't need to take on. So very relatable. And I'd imagine it is with the audience here too. As from all of each of you can likely connect that with your clients and with the people that you're working with. Is that an easy pattern to surface? Like, do you find that there's awareness around it, or there is some level of resistance, or like, I don't know what you're talking about. This is who I am. This is who I've been. What does it look like from a coach's perspective to support a client in trying to bring this to the surface when you might even see it as glaringly obvious, and it may not be as much to the client. Just centering back on awareness being the first step.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Look at us being so nice and waiting for
Being
somebody
nice.
else to jump in.
If I have to
I'll
call
be
on somebody,
quick.
I will call on somebody. Go
I
ahead.
will be quick. What I will say is what I'm noticing for women who come to me as clients is they have been wanting to talk about this. They have been so burdened by emotional, also invisible labor that leaders carry, that they are just so grateful to have a space where it's judgment free. It is understood. I get it. I live this. I have 2 teenage girls and a husband who travels. So I get all of this. And for my clients, by and large, they are just so ready to tackle this and talk about it. But you can't really do that in most organizations, in most professional workplaces, because that psychological safety may be lacking. Or as Martha said, people are freaked out about the potential of getting laid off right now. So most everybody is just thrilled to be able to talk about it with somebody who understands them.
Mm-hmm.
And I would add to what Ali just said. There's like I found that there is an awareness, but there's almost a sense of like, but I don't know what else to do. This is what I know, this is what's worked so far. This is what got me here. And so that's when there's a part of awareness that you need to refine. There's a big general sense like, oh, this is wrong, and I can see how it's happening. But then you can break it down into particular situation or particular actions, particular moments of decisions that can help with growing the awareness. So one example that I often use is like one example I can talk about is, when we tend to, I'm sure all women have seen that. Like we're in a room, there's a task to be done, and we're waiting. Okay, who's going to take it? And there's a kind of habit to be like the first to say yes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you keep doing it, and you have a lot going on, but it's almost hard because it's a reflex to say, I'll take this. Everybody else is silence, but we have this urge, this moment where we want to do it. And so that's an example of place where you can have the awareness, the moment, the impulse in your body
Good.
to raise your hand,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so awareness, like there's a big awareness, but there's also like in the moment, how can I detect the moment where I do have a choice, where it's not just going to be a reflex?
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. And I'm going to build on that. I wrote down somatic also. Um, I encourage clients when they start to have that kind of icky tight feeling, usually it's in the chest, sometimes it's in the shoulders, to be able to start identify that alongside along what you were saying, I showed, and pull back and become an observer and notice what's going on here because their body is saying to them, hold on, whoa, stop. I had a client and I laugh, although it's not funny. She was trying to prove herself. Her identity was her accomplishments. So she's a managing director at a large consulting agency, realized that a group of 30 people in another business unit, not even anything she's close to, were being laid off, and she helped all 30 of them find a new job. Way out of her lane, way out, but needed that confirmation, that validation that she was doing good work. So we talked a lot about that. And, there was a lot of awareness building around making that choice and then starting to bring a different perspective and the ability to let that go so that she could focus on what was important for her.
So I'm hearing when it comes to awareness of patterns, this even comes back to something I think each of you mentioned in your own way from the beginning around how those that you work with oftentimes and initially at least have some level of disconnect with even themselves. And that even the discovery of that, I feel like is like its own breakthrough because oftentimes before having coached with BE even for a number of years, oftentimes people come to the sessions initially being like, you're not going to tell me anything I don't know about myself. Like I've lived with myself for X number of years. What are you going to tell me that I don't know? So there's this initial, you're kind of in the blind zone of just not knowing what you don't know, and almost blissfully staying there and having space there. So what I'm hearing is like step one is almost just unearthing, surfacing this pattern around, hey, you have a disconnect with self, and as a result, here's the behavioral output now, and then recognizing, well, what is it on the outside that when you see, you're like, oh, that's that thing again. That's a thing Aïcha was mentioning in our session, or Alli, or Martha, or whoever their coach might be. So this sort of, I'd imagine like it's just sort of this constant reinforcement. Um, what do you see as far as like in terms of, okay, so they're starting to recognize this pattern. Now, what do we do about it?
Mm-hmm.
Like what, okay, so I see I can't help myself. I impulsively raise my hand and volunteer for things that are not my job. I'm already overextended. I'm juggling identities at home as well that are leading me to feel this level of overextension there. Well, how do you break the pattern?
Mm. One tool that I use that I know is popular with behavioral essentials, but I kind of expanded a bit, is to do what we call a calendar audit or a sent email audit. Take a look at your calendar for the past 2 weeks and who you sent email to. Break it into two buckets. One bucket, this is what I should be doing. This is my job. This is only I can do. Other bucket, everything else. Everything you should be delegating, you should be delaying, you should not be doing. Throw that all to the side and then really focus on, I encourage clients to focus on that do bucket. What is it that only you are responsible for that you should have a hand in? And I think, Arti, what that will do is start to bring about awareness in choices. So as clients continue to, go to work every day, they have a better, more clear understanding of what it is they should own and what it is they need to let go of.
Yeah, I do something similar with clients, except I ask them to look at what their hourly rate would be. And then when they identify those things that maybe they shouldn't be doing, maybe it's better if someone else on the team does the work and they can delegate it to them, they calculate that number. And essentially they say, oh, wow, I just spent $1,000, looking at a PowerPoint that somebody else could have done, and that's really costing my company, my organization, this. So we look at it that way. I love numbers, and a lot of clients are shocked by that, and they really appreciate the fact that it's not that you're above it, it's not that you're better than it. It's, to Martha's point, are you the only or the right person to be doing this particular task?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and I often start with an approach similar to Martha. So I won't repeat that part. But in addition to that, what I love to do is to help them see the impact of their difficulty of delegation. So many leaders actually that I've been coaching actually really want to support their team. They really want to be there for their team. They're actually sometimes taking on too much for their team. They want to help so much. And one thing that I help show is how um, not delegating is actually preventing the team to grow.
Yes.
And and you can even see it in when you start observing or talking with your team, looking at the 360s, there could be clues that people are wanting to learn more. They're asking for it, or they want to take more risk, or they want to learn, they want to try and be more creative in certain ways. But because you're like hoarding all these responsibilities, you're taking this away from your team.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's also an aspect that I love to help people have a perspective around, like, the benefit of delegating. It's not just it's going to be supportive of my leadership. I have more space for creativity, I have more space to take a step back and have vision and come back and bring that energy to the team. But also I can help my team grow, and together we can achieve more.
Yes. Beautiful. Beautiful. And I see a lot of clients not delegating, especially when they move into, more of a senior role, because what they were doing, they're so comfortable with.
Mm.
It's all soft and warm and familiar. Oh, I know how to do this. I do it so well. I get so much praise for it. Why would I delegate it? But that's when senior leaders want to step up. You are not the doer anymore. You are the person who is creating a culture of being able to do. And then exactly what Aïcha was saying, move into role and responsibilities that are at your level.
I love what each of you had mentioned around first just practical tools, and something you all watching this, listening, can right away step into, whether it's that calendar audit, whether it's calculating your hourly rate, or what I love, what was brought up as well, is we all have different ways of feeling motivated. And that's beauty again of working with a coach who knows exactly how to put something. So it like sparks something within you of like, oh, this is important. I am now more connected and driven to bring resolve to it. So whether it's like time management's my thing, I don't like wasting any little bit of time, or if it's on the relationship side of things, like you mentioned, Aïcha, of like, what am I preventing down the line? What's that ripple effect of here I am overextending myself because I'm trying to do the very best for my team, and I think I'm doing it because I'm doing all these things for them. When a matter of fact, I'm not helping them grow. I'm not helping them come into full bloom, and grow beyond, maybe to their own goals that they have for themselves. Yeah, so I'd love to dig into that a little bit more around what are some of the other subtle, maybe even more subtle ways that these signs and symptoms of hanging on to too much for your team. Like, what's the potential impact of for the team, for others, when you don't fully step into your authority, or when you don't delegate and you hang on to too much, when you label it as dedication, but others see it as something else.
Mm-hmm.
One signs I've seen is that, like sometimes it's perceived as almost like the leader's like taking on too much, but then every single decision, people have to run it by me. Like
Mm.
I'm now the center of all actions and decisions, and it's a burden. Like it's just a big burden. And I'm tired of this, but at the same time, I don't know why everybody's coming at me with challenges, with questions, with decisions to be made. That's to me, like that's a big sign of, uh, just something's off. Maybe I'm taking on too much. Maybe I should give more for people to lead for me.
Mm.
Yeah, it's cyclical, right?
Mhm.
And we may create it because we want people to come to
Mhm.
us. We want to feel like we,
Mhm.
are giving the seal of approval. But it's creating this dependency. And when you're tasked with being strategic and people continue to come to you for these very small decisions and you're being a bottleneck, it's like death by a thousand cuts. I've been there, and it is a really painful way to lead. And so, another offering I would give is situational leadership. Figuring out how do you lead based on the individual's capacity. So, look at their capability, look at their commitment to the work, look at the risk that's at hand, and then that tells you what to do. It tells you I can totally be hands off and delegate,
Mm.
or maybe I need to be a little bit closer to this, but I can communicate, the check-in points. But creating this really vicious cycle of needing to have people come to you, or for people feeling like they have to come to you, it can be demoralizing for everyone on the team ultimately.
Yeah. I have an example here that I want to share with a client who had been very good at persevering, but took it a little too far. Um, and she had never taken a vacation. She couldn't remember the last time she had taken a vacation day. She was on their instant messaging platform 12, 14 hours a day, always on. Felt like she had to be there or she was going to let somebody down, and had a very significant physical accident. Didn't miss a minute, didn't miss a day, and thought she was the model of resilience and commitment. But what she was realizing, what she realized was it was impacting her team because they felt like they couldn't take a day off. They couldn't talk about any struggles. And so when she brought some awareness to that and some attention, she's made a shift. Personally, she's going to go to the spa this weekend and enjoy herself. Professionally, she has put in for a vacation for a week in May. I have challenged her to spend 2 of those days off the phone. She has not accepted that challenge yet, but we will see. And she's starting to, talk more with her team about struggles, about things that are going on, to be able to create a culture that is more accepting of that and more real and more realistic. And the last thing she's doing is starting to limit her or decrease her number of hours overall. Again, a big, modeling behavior to her team that will bring about a more balanced culture, I think.
Very good. Another practical tool, spa day. Like
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
heard it here, folks.
Permission granted. Permission granted.
Permission granted. And yes, sometimes it is just us needing to give ourselves permission. When even, culture got brought up in the chat here, it that Iris mentioning helping create a culture where people pleasing is the norm. That really hit home for me. It's one thing to be affected by that culture, but it's an entirely different perspective to realize we also may be helping create it. And I feel like it's tying back to some of the things that you're mentioning around where leaders modeling this behavior and they're in turn creating this culture that just continues to emphasize people pleasing behaviors or or overextension, whatever it may be. We do have time for Q&A, so I just want to encourage, if you're listening in, to hop on the chat and send us your questions. I got one personally, and I'll check that one out in just a moment, but I see this one in the chat that everyone can see. So this is for anybody who can jump in. As we recognize patterns and nudge female exec level leaders to lean in more boldly, please share where you see opportunities to nudge male leaders to do their part to come to the middle. And that's from Shannon in the chat.
Such a good question, Shannon. And you're right. We can't do this alone as women in leadership. What I've seen be most effective is first, having a relationship built on trust with that male colleague. And then appropriately, not necessarily in public, but appropriately, challenging them when maybe their intention wasn't actually the impact it had. So whether it was an offhanded comment or something that, caused a woman, me, let's use me for an example, to feel slighted or to feel diminished, having that safe space, the relationship with that individual, and just having a candid conversation with them, I think does so much good, because oftentimes, from my experience, people who see themselves as allies can't fully understand the lived experience that we have as women. And so there's a distinct difference between impact and intention. And so a lot of times it's just sitting down and having that conversation. And once somebody realizes that, there's a shift that takes place in my experience.
Mm.
Yeah. And I would like to add, Alli, I love that you bring in the relationship part, like the trust. And there's some, when this is in place, like there's an opportunity to give the feedback, like for them to learn. Right. And so I believe that sometimes when we do have the information and we really understand it and we can keep, really see it for what it is, then we can make a change. And so I'm hesitant to see that it feels like it's more work for women to go to educate men, right? But when you do have this relationship where it's already available for you, like just cultivating that space, I think could be useful.
Yes, yes. The only thing I would add there is, finding your peers, male peers who you are close with, who you have a strong, professional relationship with, talking to them about how they can model behavior to others in the team in a way that will be beneficial for both men and women, to create a culture that is accepting of all. Yeah, to leverage those relationships.
All right, I got a pretty big question here in the Q&A, so I'm going to read it out loud for everybody. So, this is from an anonymous attendee. How can I rebuild my passion after years of burnout, perfectionism, and constantly trying to prove myself, especially in a male-dominated field? What practical steps can I take when I still need to keep performing and getting the work done? Or is it time to cut the losses and find a new role? I'm going to let you all sit with that for a moment. There's some big themes here around, and this can be pretty complex to sort through, but I want to give you all space to jump in with whatever part of it grabbed you and how to support this person through it.
Congratulations for asking that question. That's your first step. Consider yourself started on whatever is next for you. Maybe it's stay, maybe it's go. But honor the fact that you have, it's giving me goosebumps, honor the fact that you have that question, because it matters. It really matters. And how you figure that out, I'm going to say it. Start working with a coach. Find somebody who can help you. Ask for help. You've already asked for help. Continue asking for help. Continue trying to find somebody who can partner with you to figure this out. I think the very high level steps that I would suggest you think about are figure out why you're stuck. What's keeping you there? What beliefs do you have that are keeping you there? Figure out, I mean, I know that's not easy, but try to start understanding what that is. And then give yourself gigantic permission to dream and be big on what it is you really want to do. Permission granted again on that. It doesn't mean you're going to do it, but get an awareness of what it is that really you love, that you're passionate about, that matters to you. And then very slowly, gently, kindly start to take those steps. I mean, that's a short answer to a big question.
Yeah, I would like to add to what Martha just shared. I love what you just shared. I feel, like I think asking this question shows that you're ready for something else, whatever that is, whether you stay in the role or whether you move on. Burnout is real. It's like it's not just a thing that it's not just like a flu. It's there at different levels. It's like psychologically, there's a lot of like wounds that come with it. There's like physical wounds that come with it. It's very deep. And I'd say, as someone who has had two burnout in my life, because I was so resilient and dedicated, I can tell you that it's a time to slow down and to really ask yourself, what is it that you need, not what the company needs, not what other people needs. Really come back to yourself. And like Martha said, like this invitation to explore what really matters to you, what drives you, what is your core, so that you can rebuild your life from there.
Beautiful. Thank you, Aïcha. The only thing I'll add is take time to really understand, who are you, not who are you in this role. Who are you potentially as a partner or a caregiver, but who are you? What is at your core? And to the extent you can try to make space for some of that, it can help create a little bit more joy, despite the challenging situation you're in. And the other thing I would say is get clarity on what is not working for you. Are these things that maybe a behavioral change in yourself can impact? Are these things that are cultural within an organization and you'll never be able to change them, as an example? And then maybe, once you get through that clarity, you'll be able to start to make progress. But as Martha and Aïcha said, take it small. Take 15 seconds in between meetings, take 30 seconds, I call those micro pauses throughout your busy day, just to breathe and to get centered, because your body's on overdrive right now.
And I think, it's wonderful to also hear these aspects and input from you all and it's great to even see, we try to here at BE eat our own cooking, as I like to say. And Alli, I know that that's something that you've even talked to me about, around how you intentionally create space between different engagements so you can just truly put a bow on the last engagement and step fully into the next one. So love hearing that. Okay, a lot more engagement has come through the Q&A, and we'll get through as much as we can for the next couple of minutes. Love to see you all engaging with us. So feel free to jump in, any of the coaches. I'm going to go through this next question. How do you recommend someone begin shifting from we to I, especially when the fear of attracting negative attention and jeopardizing their job feels really real, very real? So even if they've got on their own end a documented list of achievements, all these things are directly responsible for, but they still can't bring themselves to utilize that to become their own advocate for themselves and advance their career. So shifting from we to I, how do you recommend somebody begin doing that and owning that, giving themselves permission?
Mhm. Um,
Go ahead. No need to be polite.
Uh,
Jump in.
FOPO is a real thing, fear of other people's opinions. And I think maybe that's the beginning of where you can shift from we to I. Stop worrying about what other people think. One, because they might not be, probably they're not, because they're worried about all their own stuff. And then two, really consider if the people that whose opinions you're worrying about are opinions that you really care about anyway. Because often they're not. So I think the shifting from we to I starts with trusting yourself, being okay with making a mistake, being okay with asking for help, knowing that you are where you are right now because you belong there. That is where you're supposed to be. And you've gotten there because of all of your hard work. And I think, it's okay to claim it. Permission to claim. Yeah.
Popo. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, we tell ourselves a lot of stories. We, as human beings, want to have an answer. We want to fill in the blanks. And that doesn't always serve us in the right, it doesn't serve us. And so questioning those stories about maybe what other people think or the fear of, a particular outcome, start to scope back out. I think Martha said this earlier, look down on the dance floor, imagine you're on the balcony and try to observe what's really happening, what actual data you have. And then, start caring just a little bit less about what other people think.
Okay.
I'd like to share as a recovering people pleaser person. I actually love these conversations when they come up with clients where we actually go back and we make an audit of all the things that the client has made, done, achieved that gave them joy. Like all the things that they have achieved, and we list them out in the career, in even in leisure time. Like I built this club, I did this and that. Like really going back and making the audit and seeing how many times
Mm-hmm.
you've had, came up with something creative, how many times you overcame something difficult and really succeeded. And having this list and really sitting with it and feeling it, how many times you actually were there and made a contribution. And at the end of this exercise, you really get to the point where you have a concrete list on a piece of paper of all the ways that you have built your expertise, all the ways that your experience has made a difference. And you can always lean on that. It's something that you can bring in your conversation. So I almost did, like I actually do a somatic thing around it. We go through this, we feel how it was to achieve all these things. And we feel it. And sometimes people feel it. It's like, oh, it's like above my head. Sometimes it's in my heart. Sometimes I feel bigger, right? And we cultivate that like bodily sensation, and we bring it to conversations. We bring it to meetings. And that is a way to connect, the history and go beyond those stories that we tell ourselves and really embed it in our body and recognize it when we want to summon it. So that's one thing I do with my clients. Um, Another, and yeah, so that I'm just going to stop there. Have more.
Well, this honestly, I think this our time together this could be a retreat in itself. You know what I mean? So thank you all so much for everything that you've shared so far. We have a couple of questions we did not get to in the chat. And want you to continue the conversation, continue the level of engagement and curiosity you've had, but going to invite you to have that conversation with even your own coach, complimentary, invite you to take the blind spotting assessment. If any one of these things, as we're talking about it, maybe it is still connecting with the very initial themes that brought you in of like, I want to explore this more. Maybe your answer changed as you moved through it and you were able to learn more about how these, in the most subtle ways, these signs and symptoms of different blind spots and leadership behaviors initially contributing to our success, tipping over to that blind spotting space. And it's always helpful to have an assessment, have something completely objective outside of you, support you in that process. And like each of us have advocated for, working with a coach who's someone on your team, a partnership to carry you forward and continue to hold you accountable to exploring self-awareness, your blind spots, and supporting you on your growth path. So you'll see these 2 QR codes here to take the blind spotting assessment completely on us, and then book your free coaching session as well. Continue leaning into the curiosity. Again, apologies if we didn't get to your question here, but you'll get to meet with one of our coaches and hang on to that, continue that dialogue and conversation. Just like even Martha mentioned earlier, it's like, proud of you for even asking that question. You know, that's a big step. Speaking of stepping into your authority, stepping into bold leadership for yourself and for your path moving forward. So thank you all so much for joining us today, and look forward to continuing to engage with you. Appreciate you all. Thank you again, Aïcha, Martha, Alli, for joining us and adding so much to the dialogue today. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Take care.